Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. This is a new tea time chat about discontinued makeup. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. In today's video, I'm doing a monthly series that I like doing here on the channel where I chat to you about a beauty-related topic, and I thought we could get nostalgic for a second and talk about some discontinued makeup products, because I've been doing my Declutter Regret series all about my past declutters, giving you a peek into what my makeup collection used to be like about 8 years ago now. So I think those videos were from 2017. And yeah, it's been such a trip down memory lane, and it's made me very nostalgic for talking about some brands that are either now really hard for me to buy, or that had a particular product that was so much loved by myself and so many others, and that I'm like, why don't we have these things anymore? Because I feel that especially like around 2016, there was definitely this shift to like the full glam Instagram baddie. And that sort of made a lot of brands that were successful in doing one thing before that less popular. And I feel that that sometimes hurt certain brands, or that made brands discontinue products, even though they were really good. It just didn't go with the makeup trends at the time. So I was like, you know what? We need to chat about some brands that I remember owning at some point in my life. Some of these go way, way back. Some of these may still be available, but they're not brands that are top of mind for me anymore when it comes to buying makeup. So that's why I thought we could go into, I think it's over 10 brands that I have to chat about with you. And I would love to know, share your comments to this tea time chat video by adding your brands that you've forgotten about had existed, or that you no longer have access to, in the comment section down below. I would love to have that conversation with you in the comments. So the first brand I wanted to mention here is Urban Decay. Urban Decay used to be my go-to, my bread and butter, the brand that whenever they had a new release, I would stan it. I jumped through some hoops, let me tell you, to get my hands on Urban Decay products. The Vice 3, I've told this story before on the channel in case you don't know. The Urban Decay Vice 3, I wasn't sure whether I was gonna get it. And then it had sold out in the Netherlands, and the only place where I could still find it was in the US. And the US website allowed me to place an order with my Dutch credit card, but have it shipped to an American address. So I knew I was traveling to the US that summer. I had the palette sent to a friend who I was going to meet up with. And then she gave me that palette, like it was shipped to her place. I think she lived in, where did she live? Like close to Washington, D.C., thereabouts. And then she drove all the way up to New York so we could meet up. So it was in her house for like a good couple of weeks. And then I had to take it with me on my trip to the US before I could bring it home and take all the pictures. Like that, like I put in the work, you guys, when it comes to my Urban Decay purchases. And this was a very elaborate one, but at the time I didn't have that much makeup yet, of course. So makeup was a bit more special to me, and makeup was also a lot harder to find sometimes. Now with so many more websites having things available makes a lot of products much more accessible, even though I still love going into store and swatching things and checking things out in real life. That's just a lot more helpful when you're trying to buy makeup, I find. But with Urban Decay, they of course are one of the sad stories currently of the makeup industry, I find. I think they're going to survive. I think they're not going to be defunct anytime soon. But Urban Decay used to be this really fun, vibrant, out there, innovative product line. And then they started doing the naked palettes, which everybody, of course, knows about. And then that turned into this whole naked thing within their range. And then I feel they kind of fell off. Because I think they kind of missed the boat when things like the ABH Mono Renaissance started to happen. Like they were still pushing like cool tone neutrals, and everybody was doing like oranges instead of neutrals, and that called it a neutral. It was the whole like Morphe sort of, O2, was that what it was called? Morphe, whatever. I never owned the palette, so I don't exactly know. And I feel they kind of started missing the boat then. And that's when they started reformulating things, they discontinued products and then never brought things back. Like, they haven't had a blush in like 8 years or something like that. It's been terrible. And then I think the revamp of their lipstick range, that was pretty successful. So they first had the Revolution lipsticks, I believe they were called, and then they turned them into the Vice lipsticks, and that was, I think, a really good thing. But then they reformulated it again, and that's when things started to go haywire. For a while there, Urban Decay was available in the Netherlands. You had to go to a particular store, though, to find them, and they weren't available everywhere by any means. But that, to me, was a game changer. It made the brand so much more accessible. I could go into store and swatch things, but they have been completely pulled of the European market. Like, they're no longer available within the EU, save for online. I believe they're still stocked at Zalando. And there are a couple of UK websites that still have them, and I know that Boots in the UK has a bit of Urban Decay, but it's nowhere near the presence that they used to have. They've completely pulled themselves out of different markets to target mainly the US, I feel. So Urban Decay is one where I just feel super sad, because it was a brand that it would always get me excited for whatever they had to offer. And I'm so glad I hung on to so many of my Urban Decay palettes. It's like a little piece of my makeup collection that sort of has all the memories, so that's why I hang on to it, because it really also shows my revolution as a makeup user, and from going to being a normal makeup user to having a YouTube channel that's pretty mildly successful, you could say. So I feel like Urban Decay as a brand just stands for so much in my makeup loving life that I would be very sad to see them go. But over here, they're just incredibly difficult to get. And from what I've seen in the UK, what I can see if I found them in stores, it's very pared down, it's very minimal, it's the best-selling products. It's the Urban Decay All-Nighter Setting Spray and a couple of other bits, and it's not the full range anymore, which makes me a little bit sad. But yeah, maybe someday in the future I get to travel to the US again and I can see like the whole brand like displayed again in front of me. That would be lovely. Or maybe times will turn. The Space Cowboy single shadow had a moment again over on TikTok. I think about a year or two ago now. Everybody was pushing Space Cowboy, and I think that, or Midnight Cowboy. I never know the names of these shades, because they have a couple of things with cowboy in the name. But that's, you know, these resurgences I think are good. It's just that when it comes to Urban Decay, they have completely shifted away from what made them good once upon a time, I find. The second product, the second brand I feel very nostalgic for is Sleek. I used to have a massive Sleek palette collection, but I also tried so many of their other products, including lipsticks and cheek products and all that. I still have a few bits and bobs here, and they're still available in the UK, but the presence that Sleek used to have about a decade ago, that's nowhere near to be found. And with Sleek, I feel it's explainable, even though it's not a nice thing. I think that when Sleek had its popularity peak, because I think I had one of their palettes even before I ever owned an Urban Decay Naked palette. So it's like late 2000s we're talking here. It was one of the first things I ever bought. I still have one of those really old palettes as a memory to myself, like, oh, here's your first neutral eyeshadow palette. Because I still had the Sleek palettes with the waffle cones, like the waffle cone print in it from the pressing of the shadows. I had those. But then what started to happen is that we got brands like Makeup Revolution almost taking over the UK drugstore, because Sleek was at first only available in the UK, and that's where I bought most of my products. And like UK beauty YouTubers were talking about them all the time. They created so much hype. I think they even became available in the US at some point. They became available through stores here in the Netherlands as well, and it was so easy to pick them up. But with Sleek, I think it's really because the market changed and things like Makeup Revolution started duping existing products for cheaper that really killed Sleek as a brand, because they were roughly as expensive as a makeup, like Sleek and Makeup Revolution were at a very similar price point, I felt. Sleek was a little bit more expensive, so Revolution was like just under that. And then they just started to churn out all of these look-alike palettes that people were then, of course, buying because it meant you didn't have to pay the Urban Decay or Too Faced price point for it. And I feel like Sleek walked so Makeup Revolution could run, almost. Like, it's really like almost this displacement of one brand by another. They're still Sleek around. I have found them in places. I found them in Spain last year. I found them in London the other day when I was there in May. So they're still around, but again, with a lot of the things, like I said about Urban Decay, a lot of the products that made them famous were reformulated, were either discontinued, no longer around, and I feel that also alienates customers sometimes from a brand if those changes are made too quickly, or also if trends change and brands cannot keep up with it, then that's definitely something that goes into it as well. With Sleek, I think that they were very much like the full glam sort of look, but it didn't always go with what people wanted. And therefore, I think, especially once eyeshadows, also, that's another reason why I think Urban Decay did a lot less. It's because eyeshadow palettes are currently not the thing. I think you have to be a makeup enthusiast to really enjoy eyeshadow palettes at the minute. It's not something that's really part of like everyday makeup consumption, I find, and it's definitely hurt both of those brands. The third brand I wanted to chat about with you is Benefit. Benefit used to be my go-to. The first makeup brand I ever got into was Benefit. That was my holy grail, ride or die. I think I owned the entire line at some point, very, very early on in my makeup days. So I had a couple of those infamous Benefit products like the Erase Paste, and they had this, I think it was called Lemonade or something like that. It was like this yellowy tone thing. And I had some eyeshadow palettes, and I had single shadows, and I had lip products, and I had the concealer, and I had everything. I had everything. And I really enjoyed Benefit. I really liked the vintage style packaging that they had. That was what really sucked me in. But over time, I also found out that there were plenty of products in the Benefit range that didn't go with my complexion, that didn't work for my skin tone, that didn't work for my skin type. And then I just started to sort of venture away from what they were doing. And since then, they have discontinued a lot of the iconic products that I used to love. The box blushes were one of my favorites. I had Coralista that I hit pan on even. So that's such a nostalgic thing for me. But so many other brands were doing Coralista-like shades. Like, I still have shades like that in my makeup collection today. But it's no longer the same. And I did try one of the newer reformulated ones, and it's fine, it's okay, but compared to everything else that's on the market today, Benefit is no longer very revolutionary or very, like, it's just not super new. It's like, it's solid, it works, it's good product, for sure, but it's nothing that gets me excited anymore. Revlon is a brand I'm currently rediscovering. Revlon as a brand, though, is very hard for me to get because they aren't available where I live. They used to be, but I think right around the time that my makeup enthusiasm became stronger is when Revlon actually left the Dutch market. So I have to go to the UK to find them, and then in the UK, their offerings aren't that big. Like, there isn't that much in store. I think because Revlon is more of a US-based brand, that in the US you're going to be able to find a lot more products than you do over here anyways. The best way for me to buy Revlon nowadays is online. That's the easiest way to have access to all of the shades. However, the reason why I really want to mention Revlon is because I feel there was so much hype around so many Revlon lip products, like 8-9 years ago. We had the lip butters, we had those, they had this liquefied formula as well, I remember. Like, I remember going to London, going into store to buy these things, and they had this huge console. And right now, Revlon is like shoved into a corner in most Boots and Superdrugs that I go to. So for me, I feel like Revlon as well as a brand has its moments. There are moments where they're super popular. There's also moments where they aren't that popular. And because I feel like Revlon is like this legacy brand in the drugstore, they have been around for such a long time, that can be a good thing for them, but it can also hurt them, because I also feel like Cherries in the Snow is now one of my favorite lipstick shades that they still do. It's a lipstick shade that's been around since the 50s, but people only use up lipsticks ever so often. So of course, if you don't have a lot of new products coming in that people feel are innovative, then that's of course not going to get people talking online, and that therefore I feel the presence of Revlon has shrunken a little bit, but by no means are they a bad brand. Like, I've rediscovered them last year, and I now have 6 of their lipsticks, and I love them. So they do some really solid things. I still need to dip my toe into other Revlon products for sure, to check out more of the line, to see if they are anything like I remembered. But yeah, they have solid pieces. It's just that people aren't going to be repurchasing things if it's the same thing they already owned. But I also feel like at the same time that Revlon is really solid for sticking to their guns and knowing what they're good at, and not trying to to really get into the hype of things and respond to that, because that I feel can also hurt your brand if you're too quick on the uptake. Another brand that I know is still around, but I remember this one from my nail polish days. I used to be a nail polish fiend. All the way from the time when I was 12 years old until well into my 30s. I wore nail polish for like 20 years straight without fail. And then my nails started to get weird, and because I used to bite my nails, so wearing nail polish was a ploy for myself to not bite my nails. And then once I got to work and I stopped being in college, I stopped nail biting cold turkey. And I actually ended up having to grow my nails out, but they were very brittle, and therefore I kept wearing nail polish for a very long time, because it was the only thing that made my nails stronger enough to not break all the time. But then what's been really weird in the past 5 or 6 years is that whenever I wear nail polish, my nails now break more easily if I wear it. Like, they start to, it doesn't stay on. My nails are super hard now. I should not scratch myself, because that leaves a mark for weeks. So these are now lethal weapons, you could say. So that's a complete game changer, and that's why I no longer wear a lot of nail polish, because my nails are just naturally really strong now. And with Collection, and especially back in the day when they were called Collection 2000, the Y2K realness is here. I really, really enjoy that brand. And I really, really had so many of their nail polishes that I wore religiously. It was a thing for sure. I had so many of them. I think I have a video somewhere up on the channel, where maybe my old channel, because I still have that floating around somewhere, where I showed you my nail polish collection from way back in the day. But yeah, I had a lot of collection. They're still a brand. The concealer had a moment in the early 2010s that everybody was raving about, who was in Europe and who was into beauty. And they still have a line, and they still do new things. They are still available through Superdrug. So if you want to check out Collection and where they stand today, you can definitely do that. Another brand that I'm sort of sad to see being discontinued is Bourjois. Where did they go? They used to be available in every single drugstore, and now I need to go and really look for them to find them, and then I don't find them everywhere anymore. So does anybody know what happened to Bourjois? Have they gone under? I don't know what's gone on there, because they used to be available at my local drugstore, and then I saw the display becoming smaller and smaller and smaller, and now it's been replaced by NYX in my local drugstore, which I'm happy with. I love NYX, but I think Bourjois is just a similar fate to these other brands I've mentioned so far, where they're just dying a slow death because nobody talks about them anymore. Who remembers the Healthy Mix foundation sort of hype that happened in the early 2010s? I for sure did, and I've tried some recent Bourjois things, and they were still really solid products. It's just that people seem to forget that Bourjois, the brand, the mother company Bourjois, actually owns Chanel. So a lot of the Chanel makeup is duped by Bourjois. You can like get Chanel makeup at a cheaper price point. That was always the ploy with Bourjois, that you could get really good high-end quality makeup but at a drugstore price point. They were a little bit pricey compared to other drugstore brands, so maybe that went into it as well. But it's one of those things that just seems to be phasing out and nobody is talking about them anymore, which makes me sad because one of my first eyeshadows was a Bourjois shadow. I still have the single somewhere from back when I was a teenager. Wet n Wild, not the brand as a whole, I know that Wet n Wild is still wildly popular with some people, but here again, like, I feel like e.l.f. has taken the stage as like the big US-based drugstore brand that everybody is going gaga for, where that used to be Wet n Wild, in my opinion. So I'm not sure what happened there, but I think it's also been a reformulation thing. Like you had the walking on eggshells thing that they had, everybody was going gaga for. What's it called again? Comfort Zone palette. I think especially because they changed their eyeshadows, and they've changed them several times since then, and nobody seems to like it. So I think everybody wants that original formula to still come back. Remember when they had like the 8 pans? I had the purple one, which I don't remember the name of, because the Comfort Zone was a bit too dark for my liking at the time, so I got the purpley toned one. But I had several of those Wet n Wild eyeshadows, and I really loved them. And then I tried their reformulated one when they started doing also like this dupe of the Mono Renaissance, and I had that, and that was still okay. But it just seems to be like these Wet n Wild shadows. Like, Wet n Wild is just not talked about as much as they should be, I feel. I wish there were more people talking about that brand. Then a brand that is still very much around but that confuses me to no end is Tarte. What's going on there? Does anybody know? Does anybody know what's going on with Tarte? Like, they used to have so many very solid ranges. I remember using up one of their foundations a while ago. I still have a couple of my Amazonian clay blushes because those were really good. But with Tarte, I feel like they seem to just have an identity crisis. They don't know what they want to be. And then there's the whole business with the influencer trips, which also leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And there are just some shady things going on there. So for me, Tarte is one of those brands where I'm like, what happened to you? You used to be great. Like back when the original Tarte lip palette launched and all those kind of things. Like, I do want to, again, compliment Tarte for keeping things in their range for a while, because I feel you can still buy the original all matte Tarte lip palette, and also the In Bloom are still available till this day, which there's brands who do things differently for sure. So I feel like Tarte, what's going on? I really don't know. Next brand I wanted to mention is Becca. I still have a soft spot for Becca in my heart. I'm sad to see my bronzer going down every single time I use it. I've hit pan on it by now. I still have a couple of the highlighters. I did declutter a couple of others because they weren't really my shades. But Becca is a brand as well. They had such a high, and then now they're part of Smashbox with a couple of their products, which over here again, Smashbox as a brand doesn't really seem to be a thing anymore. But I did find them in Sweden last year, and they had the section with the Becca products in, and I almost bought the Becca under eye corrector thing, just because I found it, just because I saw it in store. You know what? I didn't go that mad though, but yeah, it's one of those things where you're like, oh, Becca, you used to be great. You used to be great. But yeah, that brand I don't think is going to come back anytime soon. Another brand I wanted to mention here is Physicians Formula. Because the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer had the beauty community in a chokehold a couple of years ago. And I was like, what happened to them? Because they still do things. They are now available in the UK. And again, I remember going out of my way to get my hands on Physicians Formula products. I had a foundation at some point. I had several of their blushes and their bronzers. And I've tried so much Physicians Formula. I remember buying some of their things through iHerb. That website still sends me emails, but I keep forgetting to unsubscribe from them. Side note. But yeah, what happened to them? Because I feel like, is it just that people got bored with what they have to offer? I don't really know how to explain what happened to that brand, because again, it was such a good brand that had so many people loving hard on their products. But I do remember that that foundation I liked was discontinued super quickly. So if things are like introduced and then you discontinue them, that can also mean that customers don't know what it is you're offering all the time because you're bringing in new stuff. But then again, that doesn't happen to Esses and Catrice, because they've been around for years and they have been doing the whole like every 6 months we're doing new products thing for at least a decade, if not longer. Like for as long as I remember buying those two brands, they've been doing the whole changeroo every 6 months. So, and they're not punished for it. Is that just me? I don't know. NYC, who remembers this one? I didn't have that many of their makeup products because not a lot of it was right for me, but this was again in my nail polish days. NYC polishes were really good. I really enjoyed those. So yeah, NYC is another brand where I'm like, it's a little bit sad that they're no longer around. They were a very solid drugstore brand for sure. They just were. And then we had a brand here in the Netherlands. Again, I remember it from my nail polish buying days. I haven't seen this brand since the 2000s, so that's like 20 years ago or so. So if anybody knows what happened to them, I'm not entirely sure. Like at the time, I didn't know anything about like makeup brands and how it all worked. But there was this makeup brand that had some beautiful nail polishes called Théâtre. It was like theater, but then spelled the British way, you could say. And we would call it théâtre. I'm not sure if that's even the way you should pronounce it. Not sure where they came from, who, what, nothing. It's just one day they just disappeared. They were just gone. So, yeah. That's a brand that I was like, they had some nice things. Like, I think their entire idea, at least that's how it came across to me at the time, was like that it was like stage makeup but at the drugstore. That sort of thing. And then finally, another brand I need to mention is Gosh. I believe they were Danish, if I'm not mistaken. And I had a couple of beautiful polishes by them as well. I believe they are still available though. Like if you go to Denmark, they are apparently still available in some places. I think, did I find them at Kicks? Yes or no? People from Scandinavia, correct me if I'm wrong. Am I going crazy? Did I see Gosh or not? Or have they completely disappeared? Because Gosh was another one of those brands. They were a little bit up there in price, but they had so many really beautiful things. So yeah, those are brands that are no longer sold here, which makes me a little bit sad or difficult, or just the makeup community no longer talks about them. And sometimes I just go like, why? Why do we do that? Because sometimes brands just have so many solid things. So this was my tea time chat for this month. Let me know in a comment down below what your favorite discontinued brand is. I would love to know, or maybe even just a favorite discontinued makeup product, because that can definitely happen as well. And like I said, some of these brands are still very much around, but they're just not getting the hype that they used to, and that makes me a little bit sad. It just does. It just does. So thanks for watching this video today. Thumbs up the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more by me. And I hope you like to check back for more, because I will be back with a new video very, very soon. See you then. Bye-bye.